Good evening and welcome to the second Inside Government for the fall 2024 semester here at Cuyahoga Community College. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. This is a show that is shown on Spectrum, Verizon Fios, as well as ARMA, the Auburn Regional Media Access, as well as Win 89.1, the college's radio station. We are delighted to have in the studio the new superintendent of the Auburn Enlarged School District, Dr. Misty Slavic, who started on September 1st, I think at midnight, as well as her successor, former Superintendent Jeff Pirozzolo, who most likely has the record, he would hope, for most appearances on this show, as they transition, as he leaves the district and she transitions into her new position, which was always the plan. We've asked them in to talk about that transition, but also other issues as the new school year starts, and we will be, of course, talking about school safety and what happened last week at East Middle. Welcome to Inside Government.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your new job. Congratulations on your soon-to-be retirement.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So the transition was when? Was it at midnight on September 1st?
I mean, we joked that at midnight he was going to call me and congratulate me and just hand it over and not pick up his phone again. But it was at midnight, so September 1st, yes.
Okay. So let's talk about the school first, and then I want to talk about you.
Sure.
If you don't mind. How is the school year started? I know for you it's different because you hadn't been here before. Did you go into schools on the first?
I did not. I went into the ones that had capital projects going on.
Okay.
But not into all the buildings.
Okay. So how is the 24-25 school year starting?
Well, the first week was excellent. No issues. All the kids are happy to be back. The teachers were very excited. It was a really great start. I don't have any complaints about anything. It was very smooth. So whatever Jeff did to get the school year started for the upcoming year was well planned. But then we obviously went into some of the safety concerns that were going across social media, and that definitely put a scare into a lot of our community members and our students and our staff. So that's where now we're coming back out of that again, and hopefully we stay away from that, but that's where we are.
So in that first week, and I know there's pictures of you that are in the Citizen, and I know Chris Shearer has posted a lot of stuff on social media. He works for the district.
Yes.
What are you finding in your schools that you are very positively surprised by?
Wow, the interventions and the resources that we have for our kids that are just amazing. As you know, I came from Pennsylvania, so the resources were a little bit different, spread out a little bit different as well. There are so many things in place for our kids. It's amazing. And I sit there and think if I would have had all of those resources in my previous district, the impact they would have made. So that in itself is tremendous. You know, every time we find a struggling student, whether it be academic behavior, mental health, there's always something to provide support to them. So that's a tremendous thing.
I want to ask you, it's been in the news on Onondaga County, and you and I have talked that you were at one point the chief truant officer. I only pictured the little rascal
That's right.
in that format. Is truancy a problem in Auburn as far as you know or still know?
Yes, I mean, just students not coming to school is from day one, it's been a problem. We already have students who are refusing to come to school, and we're really struggling with that.
So let's break it apart. If they're refusing to come to school, is it because they're worried about safety, they don't want to come to school, or their parents haven't motivated them?
I think it's a combination. It's a wide spectrum. I don't think you can group them into one category. Each student is so different in their needs. I've talked to some students who it's just anxiety, you know, from what to expect. And then the longer you're out, the more that anxiety builds, because then they don't know what to expect. They feel like someone's going to stare at them if they return. They feel so behind in their academics. So it just really depends on each situation.
So I don't know if you know this, but I think he was the guy knocking on doors.
Yes, I do.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So who's knocking on doors now?
We started that process. We have counselors who are knocking on the door. We have SROs, SPOs who knock on the doors, trying to get families engaged. A lot of phone calls are being made, any kind of contact that we can make, special meetings to have parents come in and meet.
So you're about 3 weeks in.
Yep.
Do you have a number that you think you have as an absentee rate
Not right at this moment. No, I couldn't give you a number.
So I think there was a story on Channel 3 or 5 in Syracuse the other day, and what was shocking, and I think that news story for many people, is that the greatest concern they had was kindergartners, which I wasn't even on my.
I could see that.
I'm thinking 8th graders, 10th or 11th graders skipping. Is that a problem here as well?
I think I think absenteeism and truancy is a problem across the board. I didn't see
So
that.
not indicative of just Central New York.
Right. It's. I mean, again, I came from a different state. Same problems. Same exact problems getting kids to school. For our specific district in Auburn, it's across the board right now. I mean, we're so early in the year, so there's not one grade level that's really showing over another. That's something that we're going to be monitoring and working through. But again, it's everywhere you go.
So is there a magic number? Like I thought I heard when I was next door at the junior high. Is it 18 missed days? What happens when you get to
10%.
So when you get to 10% out of the 180 days, what happens then to the student?
So they should have already been enrolled in a program. I can't remember. Is it FIND? Starts with an F. There's a program that we enroll students in whenever they're continually absent.
Okay.
So to receive supports. That's definitely a part of the process. They should have already been contacted. Home should have already been contacted and had parent meetings to determine why is your child not coming to school? Is there support that we can put into place to help them? So even before you get to that 10%, there's already things happening. There's already teachers reaching out. We don't wait until the 10%.
Letters go out automatically from our nurses, the attendance office. So if we've only been in school for 20 days and they already have 5 absences, they're already receiving letters.
Yeah.
So, you almost keep track of 10% of the days that we're in school. So many letters are generated, phone calls, home visits.
So not necessarily on the upper end of, let's say, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. When you have those, and let's even count out the middle school, when you've got absenteeism in the elementary school, that clearly has to be a parent issue. Or are they leaving their kids alone at home?
It can be. Again, it's hard. It's specific by families. I don't like to group them all together and stereotype and say this is always the situation in elementary, because it's not. There are some situations that are legitimate. Students who may have never set foot into a classroom, they weren't in preschool programs. That socialization aspect is extremely challenging. If you think about it, you're suddenly entering a new building away from your parents and surrounded by children who are also learning to socialize, and it's overwhelming for them. But it's across the board.
So is there anything that you have seen, not so much negative, other than you most likely want to remove his portrait out of every lobby?
You mean I haven't done that already?
Oh,
no,
you haven't? Okay.
I'm joking. That's not true.
Is the maroon bunting around all of them still?
Yeah, absolutely it is.
So, as you may know, I have a good relationship with him.
Yes, I'm aware.
I noticed you are not in maroon.
And not today.
And I'm
no.
surprised. And how much maroon do you still have in your closet, buddy?
Every bit of it.
Every bit
Every
of it.
bit of it. Every bit. But you know,
Yeah.
the one interesting fact, though, Guy, that I wanted to share about the attendance and chronic absenteeism, we actually ran data last year. I presented at a board meeting. When we looked at our students that attended college, this was for the 2019 cohort. We looked at students that went to school 90% of the time or more. So 90% or higher rate of attendance. Our graduation rate was 94.8%. You know,
So showing up is important.
chronic absenteeism is the reason why our graduation rate is where it's at. The kids that come to school every day, they are passing, graduating, and getting a diploma. It's the kids that we can't get into the buildings and the classrooms. We have the best teachers, we have the best administrators. They get our kids through, but getting them to school seems to be the main hurdle that we have.
And so I know this is an unfair question, so I'll still ask it.
Oh,
So
great.
3 weeks in, is there something you would like to see Auburn do that you saw worked in Pennsylvania, but you'd like to try here?
In reference to attendance or just
Anything.
anything?
I'm joking about the portraits. by the way.
That's okay. I kind of was, but no, I was joking. Wow. You know what? What's interesting to me is that there are so many things that Auburn does that I call back to my old district and say, you're not going to believe
That's great.
the resources that we have. So
Okay. Well, we'll have you here without him.
Okay.
Maybe in November.
And then we'll talk about
and
real
we'll talk
things.
Real
Okay,
things.
all
Okay.
right.
But
So
I'll tell you, if she can find that answer to
Mm-hmm.
the chronic absenteeism, she's going to be a millionaire because this is what school districts
Yeah.
deal with, right?
all of them.
Yeah,
Not just
it's
Auburn.
it's a very, very difficult thing.
So just a little bit about you, if you don't mind.
sure.
I know you sent out a district newsletter a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
It's right here in front of me, where you told a little bit about yourself, but more importantly, talked about the district. So where are you originally from?
I'm originally from just out of Johnstown in Pennsylvania, but I moved to outside of Pittsburgh, about 20 minutes from Pittsburgh.
And where'd you go to school?
College, University of Pittsburgh.
Okay. And did you do your master's there?
I
and
did.
Doctorate?
I did my doctorate there as well.
Okay.
So I have my bachelor's and my doctorate from the University of Pittsburgh, and then various other colleges in Pennsylvania for the different certifications. So there's a principal certification, a superintendent letter. There's all kinds of different certifications.
So you originally were a teacher in English?
Yes,
What
secondary.
so secondary would be for what?
It's my certification was 7 through 12, but
Okay.
I primarily taught 7th and 8th grade English.
Okay. And what was your first administrative job?
My first administrative job was actually a cyber school principal. I was trained by the state to teach teachers how to use technology in the classroom. And
Prior to COVID?
way before COVID,
Okay.
yes. And through that position, since I was so familiar with technology, superintendent reached out to me and said, hey, can you become the principal of our cyber program? And I said, sure. So I delved into that area. And then during that time, I was also writing grants for various districts and ended up becoming the assistant to the superintendent for another district, and where I also served as the cyber principal, curriculum director, data person, because it was a smaller district.
Okay.
And then,
And you took a little bit of time off because well, in the sense that your husband took a job here.
oh yes, I ended in Kiski, I believe it was the end of March.
Okay. And then he is he in education?
No, he's an engineer
Okay.
at SRC.
All right. And what's SRC, for those who don't
Syracuse something company.
know? Okay.
I'm not sure.
Many people know about it because of the work they do at OCC.
Sure.
So,
Oh, okay, okay.
In their facility there.
Yes.
So why take the job in Auburn? What intrigued you about
Sure.
Auburn besides your successor?
I don't think I said those words. No, I'm totally kidding.
He sent me a
oh,
note.
He did
that said-
Oh,
he sent
okay.
me a note.
No, I'm just joking. Jeff's been wonderful. So this.
I'm not done with it.
I'm sure you're not.
So ironically, friends and my husband and I, we stayed in Cuba for a vacation about a summer ago, last summer, and we ended up in Auburn at the Prison City Grill and Bar. And I remember sitting outside, and we were like, "This is such a beautiful town," and we were so excited to be in this town because we always talked about living in a small town. We're both from small towns. And then my husband just happened to say, I wonder if there's any job openings. And he looked on his phone and there was. And then, so then I started looking up Auburn School District because I was like, oh, I wonder, just as a superintendent, you're just curious about the school districts. And the more I flipped through and was looking at Auburn, I realized how closely connected it was, or, very similar to the district I was currently working in the time. And we kind of joked about it. Whoa, wow, wouldn't it be great to live here? But, we didn't really take it very seriously. And then about 6 months goes by, and my husband was contacted by SRC to work there for an opportunity.
Oh,
and
so he wasn't even working here.
No. This is
you
just a
doing
random
okay.
vacation that we just decided to take to the area.
Okay.
And he was contacted for the position, and that obviously took a lot of, brainstorming and thought and conversations with our family because our whole family's in Pennsylvania, but our kids
you
are
have
spread
how many
out.
children?
5.
And their ages are?
24, I have to think, 24, 22, 21, 18, and 17.
So are the 17 and 18-year-olds still in school?
The 18-year-old is at Penn State
Okay.
campus, and then the 17-year-old was conflicted about coming with us. He's in a welding program, so he didn't want to lose any of his certifications or anything that he was doing. So he ended up staying back in Pennsylvania and finishing his welding program. So he's actually a senior in high school there.
Okay.
So.
And so the rest, what do the rest do?
My daughter is into cybersecurity and policy. She works in Boston. And she's the one who's 22. My oldest, who's 24, is oh my goodness, he works on construction sites. He's like a construction manager. He went to school to manage construction sites. And then my other daughter is a vet tech, and she's still in Pennsylvania, but she's debating moving to West Virginia. And then my youngest, as I said, is in high school as a senior.
Central New York is much nicer than West Virginia, no matter what Joe Manchin says.
I agree.
So,
I agree. Mm-hmm.
So one of the either luxuries, I'm not sure you see it that way, but maybe it is, one of the luxuries that you have is that you have your predecessor who can continue with you. Because as you know from the Auburn's history, often people who are superintendent, this is not where they finish their careers. J.D. Pavis is an exception to the rule that basically somebody's going to take a job somewhere else, so you don't have that transition. So what's the transition like, not the day-to-day, but
Sure.
what are you trying to glean? How long are you staying with the district?
I will be done officially on January 3rd.
Okay. So what are you trying to glean from him? And first of all, let's start with that.
Okay, so it actually is wonderful to have Jeff nearby to ask questions, pick his brain about situations. He has the history. He knows what's been going on here, and being in the district. I don't know, how long were you in the district?
Almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years. I mean, that's a long time. It's a long time in different positions to have that history that I don't have. So. And when you start a new job in my last district, I didn't have the luxury of being able to call up the previous superintendent and ask questions. So Jeff has been great about, I ask him questions all the time, or I'll text him and just say, hey, what did you do about this? Or give me the history about this situation. So that's been extremely helpful. And also, he's also continuing construction projects that he was already in the midst of, and it just makes sense for him to finish those because they're coming to completion.
So on that particular front, you said at the beginning that you went to buildings where there are construction projects. Is there any building that doesn't have a construction project?
Yeah, I mean, mostly.
And I don't mean that in a negative
no,
way. I mean,
mostly
it looks
the
like you're doing
junior
a
high
lot.
school. Herman and Casey Park are pretty much done with everything.
It looks like there's still some work being done at Genesee.
Genesee, they're still finishing the roof.
Okay.
They're putting the tin around the outside of the roof. Seward Elementary is the new parking loop.
Right.
That's not going to be done for another week or so, couple weeks. The high school, we're just doing on punch list stuff on the library.
So is your hope by January 3rd to finish everything that was in the capital plan a couple of years ago?
Correct. The punch list, we're hoping to have the punch list done by the time I walk out on January 3rd.
And is there a pending capital plan because you did not go back to the voters in the last 2 or 3 years with a capital plan, correct?
Correct. So right now, the Board of Education, we've been having conversations for about the last year about the next upcoming capital project. Misty's gotten to sit in with us for our last few facility
And it should be
meetings.
said, you were coming to board meetings before you took over
Yes.
originally.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah.
were there for several of them.
Yes.
So in your particular case, I'm assuming you're going to go to voters at some point with a new capital plan.
Yes.
Do you think that will be in May of 2025, or is it farther out?
I don't think it's going to be in May 2025, but definitely the following year. I would assume so. We have a lot that needs to get done, and waiting. Anytime you wait, the costs go up of those products in the construction. And
Blacktop.
also, yeah,
A lot of it.
yeah.
A lot of blacktop.
And then it also you're creating more problems. So if you don't fix a roof, then you have a leak.
Pay me now or pay
Yeah.
me later.
Right.
So if you, again, this is unfair. You've only been here 3 weeks full-time, but, or in charge, but you have gotten some of the lay of the land.
Yeah.
What do you see, or what has he told you are the next capital projects that are really important?
Well, I will say right now at the Harry and Tubman building in central office, again, I know this isn't a school building, but the loading dock is literally crumbling away. I mean, it's a danger, and we obviously try to update our buildings because of funding requirements.
For those who don't know where
Yeah.
that is, it's across from our nursing home
Right.
on Thorn Ave in the southwest corner of the
Yes.
city.
Yes. So there
It was
there
a former
hasn't-
elementary school.
Yes, and there hasn't been work done on that building in years just because we're focusing on our school buildings and also because of the funding requirements. So there are some things that definitely need to be taken care of in that building. The junior high is still going to need work. I mean, ongoing, it's a very old building. There's some paving that needs done all across the campuses. I'm sure you can add to this because you've been there. Do you want to?
The roof at the
Yeah,
junior
the
high,
roof,
the slate
yeah.
is all falling apart. The heating system
Mm-hmm.
at the junior high, really the focus is going to be the junior high school.
Mm-hmm.
And of what you're getting done now, are there part twos of things that you had started at? And I know you're doing safety vestibules and things like that, but if you're doing air in particular sections of schools, is the next step air in the rest of the schools?
Finishing all the other wings at all the elementary schools, and full air conditioning at the junior high, especially with the state is pushing right now with a limit on the extreme heat, even though we already have a policy. Looks like it's going to become state law very soon. So every school district is going to be forced to be able to do that. At least we will have it done, and we've already got a head start jump on that. And every one of our buildings has some form of air conditioning right now.
And then with these particular pieces, where is the board in this process? Because you have several new board members.
Yes.
And some board members who have not been on very, very long, maybe a year.
Yeah, we got two brand new ones
and
and
at least one or two.
one or two that have only been on for a year.
So you're all coming up to speed. So what are you doing to educate them and bring them up to speed?
So right now, actually, Jeff has done a great job of starting that process. And we have a facilities committee meeting where we get updates on what's happening in the district and what our needs are. We currently have an evaluation of the whole district grounds, buildings and grounds, and what the needs are. So they're updated on that as well. Just made aware of where we are with everything. But so they know. And also you can see it as you go around the district.
This is not going to be for you because it
Okay,
would be
that's
unfair.
fine.
It's truly unfair for you. So
I appreciate that.
I know it's 9 months to the next budget because we're in the last week of September right now. What's the outlook financially?
And again, you and I have
I
had
know
this
you're going to wait
conversation.
for state numbers.
Right, we have a good, strong fund balance. We have a good, strong,
What are you at?
what are we at? Probably around 12 million
Okay.
in fund balance. Total reserves, about 22 million. But, we're healthy, we're sound. The issue is what's going to happen with the foundation aid. And now,
And you won't know that till January.
No, and with this Rockefeller study coming out, if they start stripping school districts of foundation aid, our money will only last a year or two. So, that's the issue. It's the unknown.
I do want to ask you about what happened next door at the
Okay.
junior high school. So last Monday, there were some social media posts that talked about a threat. First of all, what were they? And to the best of your knowledge, where did they come from? Knowing that we're going to have the sheriff and the police chief here next
Sure.
Thursday, and we're going to get into more depth. But from your perspective, what were the threats and where were they?
There was a threat that said something about Auburn, but it did not specifically list our junior high. It just said Auburn, and there was, someone alluded to some violence happening there. We had some other threats that were just about threats of violence. They were all screenshots from a cell phone. It was almost as if someone had a cell phone and they took a picture of a cell phone. And then what happened was people shared it on Facebook, on Instagram, and then it just went wild. And the problem that we have is that every time someone shares that, we get a new report in. The police get a new report in, we get a new report in, and we have to investigate each and every single one. So if you imagine social media, what that does. And in a day, kids are sharing it, they're panicking, they're
So
sharing.
did the district meet with students to say, don't forward this?
We've tried. We've
But
tried.
you had meetings with students, though?
Individual students who were sharing it or
No,
came
I'm talking
forward.
about just
the whole
the
campus.
whole-
No, our school.
Why not do that?
Well, our school board actually just approved a policy and a change to our code of conduct that in the entire district K to 12, they cannot have their cell phones out. That starts October 15th. So we're waiting until that October 15th date, but they can have them on them, they just can't have them out. So that should solve some of the issues during the school day.
So because we advertised this show before, we get viewer questions.
Sure.
So one of the viewer questions was, there seemed to be a disconnect on Monday night where the district said it was not site-specific, but the Auburn Police Department said the junior
Sure.
high. That confused people.
I'm
What
sure.
happened?
I actually don't know what happened.
Okay.
Because the reports that I received, they may have received a different report. And although we were on the phone we were on the phone all night together, the police, we were talking, how are we going to handle this? What are our next steps? They were constantly getting new reports. My reports that I received were pretty consistent. It was the same three
And you
pictures.
and I know you still had extra officers there.
Yes.
Who, by the way, pays for that? Is that something that
The
city
district
covers?
does. The
Oh, the
district
district
does.
does. Okay. Does that mean that there's a new, a more SRO presence now?
We have one in each building,
Okay. Okay.
SROs or SPOs.
What would you tell parents to tell their kids, especially since you have a 17 through 23-year-old?
Sure.
What do you want parents to tell their children about social media?
I already shared this many times, but I'm happy to have this opportunity again. First, research to find out, is this a legitimate threat, or where did your child receive the information from if they bring it to you? Immediately report it to the police, immediately report it if it's during the school day, report it to the school district so that we know, so we can investigate, but not to, it's hard as a parent, not to panic,
Right.
but
Were you surprised? I guess I was surprised at how much this exploded compared to former threats. Were you surprised at how it kind of took a life of its own?
There was a school shooting the week before, and again, I think people, it's
When
heightened
isn't there
the
a
fear.
school shooting?
I know,
Right.
but
Yeah.
again, even though there's been over 300 school shootings this year, not as many get publicized as much as that one.
And we should
did.
say another district had a threat, which we'll talk to
Multiple, yeah.
with the sheriff, and another school did a lockdown that did not go well.
Correct.
Which we will talk to the sheriff about next week. So this was not isolated to just,
No.
in Cuyahoga County, there were 3 different school districts that had what I'll call threat or security problems.
And there was three
all
other,
within 3
and
days.
there was 3 other downstate that
Three,
dealt
okay.
with it. So, I mean, this is something that is going to continue to happen. We just have to make sure that we're using good strategies and, working hand in hand with the police as well.
Well, we would love, 30 minutes goes really quick. Welcome again to this
Thank you.
community.
Thank you for having me.
We'd love to have you on a regular basis. He usually came at the beginning of the semester, end of the semester. That's
Okay.
up to you. He also did a budget one with
Sure.
his budget person, who he would put through all the motions. And we'd like to
Gotcha.
let Tessa not have to go through that all the time. But our guest has been Misty Slavic, the new superintendent for the school district, as well as the former superintendent, Jeff Pirozzolo, to discuss this transition that they've been going through. We look forward to having you back here on a regular basis, and as we have with your predecessors. I also, if you don't mind, want to thank you. You've been very willing to come in here to talk about, and you've never taken offense. You know that there are some tough questions that are asked of superintendents, but you've been always willing to come into the studio to talk to the public. We, as an institution, appreciate that. The students appreciate it, but I want to say the community appreciates that too. So
Thank you.
good luck on the next phase of your career and life and what you're doing.
Thank you very much for having me all these years.
We will be back next week with the mayor of the city of Auburn for a city update on Thursday, as well as Cuyahoga County Sheriff Brian Skank and Auburn Police Chief James Sladen to talk about law enforcement and get an update. On Tuesday, former Mayor Melina Carnicelli will be here with First Vote to talk about this coming year's elections and a project that she's been working on for over the last several years. It's also political season if you haven't looked out your front door or at your neighbor's yard. We are going to do forums with the citizen as we normally have. We have one on Thursday, October 17th, forum for the 48th Senate District, which is Senator Rachel May and Caleb Slater, her challenger, who is a former student here at Cuyahoga Community College. We'll have the 126th Assembly District Forum with Assemblyman John Lamondez, and his challenger is Ian Phillips, who happened to be on the school board for several years and terms. That is Tuesday, October 22nd. We also have learned this week we will have both candidates for the Cuyahoga County Judgeship that has been newly created by the state of New York. Steve Bushman and Misty Garland will both be here to make presentations. That is not an area where we ask them questions. We give them 8 minutes to talk about, make the case for why they should be elected. And then we'll have Congressman Brandon Williams of the 22nd Congressional District in. He'll be given an hour interview with me. As our past rules have clearly indicated, we offer times for forums for both candidates. If one accepts and one does not, the one who accepts gets time in the studio. We have not heard back from John Mannion, the dates that we've provided to Senator Mannion have not worked, or he has not responded to our request yet. So at this stage, it will be Congressman Williams. And then we'll go back to other shows, but the questions will be asked by Robert Harding, the government and public policy reporter for The Citizen. But we want to thank you for watching. Hope you'll join us back on Tuesday, again, when we have First Vote and the shows that we have next week on law enforcement and with the mayor. You can reach us with questions at cozguytho@aol.com for both Beyond the Front Page and Inside Government. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cuyahoga Community College. Thank you for watching. Have a great night. Have a safe weekend, and we will see you back here next week. Sounds good. So I can hear it. Sounds like road chip.